playing very much the Landstill deck.
Yeah, Bug Landstill.
And over here, we got Timothy Froehlig playing Dredge.
Yeah, and he's playing a River Kelpie. I can get behind that.
River Kelpie.
Kelpie Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope.
I'm going to say it again, and I've said this many times in many different events. I never understand the standstill in a deck like this. 4 standstills in Dreadstill. And the reason being that I like standstill in decks that can attack, but so often I always feel like standstill ends up being just a dead card.
Yeah, Owen is a legacy master. He is, as you said before, he's part of the ICBM crew.
Yeah, he was part of ICBM. I'm not sure if he's still affiliated with them, but he definitely is probably the standout player from the ICBM crew, which primarily play in legacy and vintage events throughout the greater Midwest, though they're happy to like travel all over the place to face Team Mean Deck. ICBM standing famously for I Can Beat Mean Deck.
Now, Owen first had his big finish at Grand Prix Columbus, where one Steve Sadin was the champion, playing Flash Hulk. Owen, I believe, was playing Goblins. Not a great matchup for him. Couldn't really interact much.
You know, if I remember correctly, Owen ended up beating Flash Hulk several times that day. I think that one of the things, he was actually not sure if he should play Goblins that day. And talking with Owen, me, and Ian DeGraff, kind of the classic frontman, headman of ICBM, not the leader, but, you know, somebody that often got looked to at the time, and basically said, you know, Owen, you're really good at Goblins, and you don't feel comfortable with how you're playing with these other things. Just play Goblins. You know, you're going to play it great. That kind of propelled Owen into the limelight for a lot of players, that second place finish. People in the Midwest knew who he was, but that was the tournament that made the rest of the country and the world know who he was.
Now, Timothy is playing Dredge, so what Owen's going to have to do here in Game 1 is pretty tough. He doesn't really have much interaction. He can, perhaps he can Innocent Blood after activating a factory and things like that to, you know, get the bridges out of his opponent's graveyard, things like that.
That's pretty rough.
Yeah, he has Deed, which is pretty good against Dredge. You have to assume that you win the play, though, and that you actually have a Deed in your hand to be able to do that, though.
His interaction is largely going to be on the back of that Force of Will.
And post-board, he if he's on the play, he gets to bring in some Thought Seizes, some Hymns. I believe you bring in Confidant, probably Goyf here. You really just need to be more aggressive. All of this creature removal just needs to get out. The killing a Dredge Enabler is important, but a lot of this stuff can't even target it.
From his opponent, Timothy Froehlig, running kind of I would say the more traditional conservative build of Dredge. It does not run, this build does not run the Lion's Eye Diamond for the uber explosion, but rather just suffices to follow through with like the breakthrough, careful study means of getting things into the yard, as well as the creature enablers.
Yeah, and
this is classic and just totally fine.
One thing I really like about Tim's list is that he's still playing a full 4 copies of Cabal Therapy.
I love that. I think that's a great call.
Yeah, and so often you see people shaving off a few Cabal Therapies, going down to 3, maybe even 2, and sometimes less in this deck when they're playing Legacy.
I've seen 2.
4 seems really good.
I like 4. I mean, Cabal Therapy so often is just a way to make your bridges from belows create a whole ton of creatures so that you can come from a position where suddenly you've got the creatures to follow through with your Dread Return, and you wouldn't have had it without the Cabal Therapy so often. We've got a turn 1, Underground.
fetches into an Underground Sea and plays Cabal Therapy. Let's see what he names.
And there's the Force, discarding Standstill.
Ooh, he targeted himself with it? Okay. Now,
Owen lays his own blue source. He has action with Spell Snare if, for some reason, there's a breakthrough for 1, but otherwise it's just Force of Will to be able to interact with the opponent at this point. Breakthrough for 0, which is the more likely, and it goes. The enablement of Dredge has begun.
And he's just going to put all these cards into his graveyard. And next turn he's going to be dredging that Golgari Grave Troll.
I see a Brainstorm, I see a Mishra's Factory. Main phase Brainstorm. Kind of running the Type 1 style Brainstorm, which is to say you expect that more is going to come out of a main phase Brainstorm a lot of times in a power level this big.
Yeah, when you have access to the cards that you have in this format, like when you have access to interactive cards also, you really want to know how you want to play the turn. So brainstorming as soon as you want to brainstorm is important.
Yeah. Timothy sacrifices his land in order to just get that out of the library so it doesn't get taken away by a potential bad dredge.
Notice how Owen waits till turn 2 to cast the Brainstorm with the fetch land up. This will allow him to put 2 cards that are dead in this matchup back onto the top of his library and shuffle them away to the Misty Rainforest.
And there we go with the beginning of an Icarid, eating a Putrid Leech from the yard. Golgari Grave Troll gets dredged. Narcomoeba hits a trigger. I really like how Timothy is laying out his library like it's an open-faced hand. Or his graveyard like it's an open-faced hand.
It's a classic dredge thing.
Some people, even they've been playing Dredge for a while, still try to maintain kind of a normal graveyard layout in a sense. Rather than going across, they might twist the library and go downwards, so to speak, but downwards sideways. I like the across because I feel like you can see more. Now you've got only 1 bridge from below in the yard, is that correct?
I do see a single bridge.
Owen says okay. We've got a land.
Owen probably hid some things, knowing his opponent had Cabal Therapy and had just Breakthrough.
Or worse, he has nothing, and that's just the best he could muster.
Yes. That is certainly a possibility. Alright, so it's looking that Owen literally just didn't have anything, so he finds a Trop Island and he's going to go searching for a bridge from below. Rather a Pernicious Deed. That would be the best card for him right now. Let's see. Alright, Owen has a standstill now. And he has a factory. Now, Timothy's going to return that Icarid by removing a Putrid from the game. He's going to dredge back a Stinkweed Imp. That'll put 5 cards into his graveyard. A Narcomoeba will return to play, and he will probably attack with the zombie and the other 3 guys. I think he only has 1 bridge. It's not really a big deal if he loses it, and he can therapy post-combat. Just this sheer number of zombies at this point is pretty good. If he has another therapy in his graveyard, which I think he does, then he uses that right now. Now the Icarid's going to trade with this Mishra's Factory.
It does what it can. And it does get out that bridge from below.
Now Tim has a pair of zombies in play, 2 Narcomoebas, and Owen has his Underground Sea and Tropical Island. Owen draws another Mishra's Factory, and that's
Let's go.
Not too bad. But he really just needs to draw a deed at this point.
Yeah. And Icarid comes back. And the thing about drawing a deed is he's just cleaning up a small mess. He's not actually getting very far with it.
Yeah, he really needs Tim to like whiff on a dredge, something like that, and then he needs to draw a deed to follow it up. But it's difficult to make somebody do that. Tim gets in there for more air damage and some Icarid fights. Makes another zombie and passes turn back to Owen. Owen plays yet another Mishra's Factory. Alright. Tim chooses not to dredge, and instead he draws a card off the top of his library. At this point he's going to attack with just his Narcomoebas. And what's his follow-up play here? I'm just interested to see what he has. Oh,
Just cast the Golgari Thug.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now, Owen is fully aware of Tim's hand, but it's just very hard to deal with the onslaught that Dredge presents. Right now, even if Owen can deal with Tim's creatures, Tim still has a bridge from below, which will end up making it very difficult to deal with even these Narcomoebas. Alright, Tim Cabal Therapies himself, discarding a pair of Golgari Grave Trolls, and makes another zombie as he does that. Having those Grave Trolls, he casts a Dread Return, and that's going to return a Golgari Grave Troll, which is arbitrarily large.
It's a monster.
And
Six, smaller than I would have expected.
yes, it's significantly smaller than I would have expected. Now, one of the things that Owen wants to do in this matchup is basically just, in post-boarded games, he's just going to need to find a deed. That's his plan. Like, he's going to bring in Confidants, he might even bring in Goyfs so he can get more aggressive. The thing is, he has so many cards that he really just wants to take out.
I mean, another thing that the Goyf accomplishes is that the Goyf itself can hold off an Icarid. So that, like, if an Icarid is getting to work, a Tarmogoyf actually just makes the Icarid potentially fodder for cards like Cabal Therapy, but otherwise just not very effective when it comes out.
Yeah. Now, one thing about this list here is that I feel like he's definitely going to want to cut his standstills. They're abysmally bad here. His Go for the Throats are pretty below par, and his Spell Snares are absolutely terrible. So if he's cutting all of that, it's he may also just want to, like, it seems like so much of his deck is so bad here. It's a really rough matchup for him.
I mean, I think he does not have the tools to aggressively fight Dredge in his board. He has no active graveyard hate, so basically he's just going to be banking on Thought Seizes, and then rocking the 2-mana crazy powerful creatures.
Yeah, and I mean, those creatures can find deeds, which do work against Dredge, but don't do wonderful work against Dredge.
What do you think of the Creeping Tar Pit in this deck's main deck for Owen?
I think that's a really good addition. He has Life from the Loam in his deck. It creates a recurable threat besides the factory, something that he can bash through a board full of, whatever type of creature his opponent may have. A lot of the time, when I was watching Conley play earlier, for example, with his mono brown deck, it seemed like Crucible with Manlands was the whole reason why his deck was at all competing against the high-level decks. And here Owen has a Manland that's unblockable, like Creeping Tar Pit, along with Life from the Loam, which is, certainly an excellent tool to have.
I agree with you with regards to Owen's sideboard plan. Just going back to thank you for the answer on the Creeping Tar Pit, about bringing in Dark Confidant and Bob, and then probably the 2 Thoughtseize just to potentially take out that turn 1 enabler. That's 10 cards. I think Standstill, he's not the matchup for this. That's 4 of the 10. I'm not sure about cutting the Go for the Throats, because, I mean, there are so many bad cards to choose from that I think that Go for the Throat, it still might be useful in killing a big troll.
Yeah, I guess it's an instance you can kill your own guy to get rid of bridges.
Spell Snare doesn't seem that great.
Spell Snare is really bad, right?
Yeah, Innocent Blood can kill a turn 1 enabler, but it probably already did its work.
Yep.
I mean, all you need to do with the turn 1 enabler is use it once.
Yeah, but I mean, Owen's in such a bad spot that he has to keep Jason against his Dredge opponent.
Absolutely. I think that he cuts 4 Standstill, I think he cuts 3 Spell Snare and 2 Innocent Blood, and then cuts 1 Go for the Throat for those cards that we've talked about.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because he has to bring in 10 cards. Because he can't bring in him, because him may end up helping his opponent.
Him is one of those funny cards that... I could easily see.
I mean, maybe you just bring in the him on the play, because, what if I him them on turn 2 and just happen to win?
You could also happen to lose. I mean, sometimes they don't have the outlet. They're waiting for an outlet that they want to push through a counterspell.
Yeah. No, I mean that's what I was saying about him. Initially, I was saying, well, it could in fact help them, but what I eventually came to the conclusion of is this matchup is so bad for him that maybe he just needs the variance spike.
Turn 1 land via turn 1 discard.
The old no land, discard a stinkweed him. I like that play.
I do too. Now, if Owen was playing a deck that had graveyard hate, that might be something that he could take advantage of, but he just basically has to play essentially a unfair game here. The imp is going to start things going, and he has to play a fair game here against the unfair work that the Dredge is doing.
The truly unfair things that are accomplished by Owen's deck are normally accomplished against other control decks or zoo-style creature decks, Merfolk-style creature decks. That's where this deck does exceptionally well. But a combo deck that is attacking you with its graveyard is particularly hard for this type of archetype. But Bug Landstill is, in my opinion, excellent deck. A lot of my good friends are huge proponents of it. Nick Spagnola, for example.
Right.
He's a big fan of Bug Landstill.
I think part of my frustration with the standstill portion of the deck is in about 90% of the matches that I've watched, in this deck, 90% of the time, the standstill seems bad to me. And the 10% of the time it seems good, it seems like another card would have been good too.
That's completely reasonable. I think perhaps some hymns in the main deck might be better.
Become more Team America-like?
Yeah, I think that might just be the right direction.
He did indeed dredge 5 and got the 2 Narcomoeba.
That's not a Golgari Grimshell, is it? I thought that was Bridge from Below. Now Owen might just try to, go ahead and just stick his deed right here.
I would. Ooh, there we go. That's exciting.
Meatball. Yeah, Engineer Plague has a lot of value.
If he gets the second one out there, then zombies are gone for good, right?
Yep. Zombies will be gone forever. Oh, these zombies control down to 1/1s. Tim really has to full-on combo Owen, because Owen has access to cards like Factory, and he can just literally stall the game out for an exceptionally long period of time.
It is also possible that he named the creature type that Icarid is, but it's zombies is what I'm expecting. It is zombies? Okay, so we have confirmation then that he's going for the 2 Engineered Plague blockout on zombies.
So I'm assuming he has another one in his hand.
Cabal Therapy.
Do not daze me, brother.
Casts Force of Will there. Flash back the Cabal Therapy. Or not?
Well, he doesn't have land, so he didn't.
Oh,
cast
good point.
it.
Good point.
Flashed it back
He did
initially.
flash it back. My bad. Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. So Engineer Plague comes down, second one. This is going to make it so zombies are a non-issue.
Yep.
All zombies get -2/-2, and considering that zombies are just 2/2s, that's pretty rough.
So he does have Icarid going.
And he has a Narcomoeba who's going to start beating down. So Owen's not out of the woods yet.
Looks like another Cabal Therapy there. Cabal Therapy much less effective since now that there aren't zombies to be joining the party, they actually have to take away his real resources. Icarid, since it's going to die anyway, is the likely sacrificial lamb when he's ready. But there aren't going to be a Grave Titan-style eruption of zombies as a result.
Now, I'm interested to see what just happened. Now, Owen is going to bounce the Narcomoeba with his Jace. I like that play.
The Icarid's going to nibble that away most likely. Oh, 2 Icarids. Wow. 2 Icarids means that Owen is actually closer to death than not. So it's actually even... Well, there's Mishra's Factories in place, so it's almost certainly going to kill that Jace. So that the Mishra's Factories just can't play D later. Another Icarus hitting the yard for Timothy Froehlig.
Yeah, and pretty soon he's going to start having to remove the Icarids for Icarids, but such is life. When your opponent's at 8, you're getting free 3-power haste creatures.
Owen is
Beggars
now at
can't
8.
be choosers.
It is possible that Timothy Froehlig from the sideboard has brought in an Angel of Despair. So,
Ooh.
without zombies and
Angel of
without,
Despair seems pretty good.
I think does Timothy have a Narcomoeba in the yard and a Narcomoeba in hand? So without zombies and without Narcomoebas times 3, he's only got 2 left. He's gonna have to lean on one of his Icarids if he wants to get off of Dread Returns. Meanwhile, Owen's life is very low. He has 1 or 2 Mesh's Factories back. Here come all 3 Icarids, and I think he might be out of black creatures in his yard, other than the other Icarids that will be there. Here they come. Activates Mishra's Factory, blocks, goes to 2. Timothy examines his hand full of various dredgers. It looked like a pass. And it's worth noting the bridge from below going away because of the death of the Mishra's Factory while the Mishra's Factory was a creature.
The bridge, not overly relevant, but still.
You
have to maintain a proper game state.
Game state matters.
It's true.
He discards a black spell. Might be an Icarid. Owen now needs a lot of stuff to happen to be able to survive this turn. And that's it. Yeah.
And Timothy Froehlig playing Dredge defeats Owen Turtenwald.
Now Timothy, I think he only cast 2 spells. It was casting 2 Cabal Therapies from the yard. And basically
just
just
a breakthrough in game 1.
I'm talking about in game 2. In game 2.
Yeah.
And actually, yeah, you're right, in game 1. So he cast maybe a total of 4 spells over the course of the match.
Yeah.
Who needs to cast